Yes. Oh, we're recording. Great. Okay, Caroline Basu. Great. We're so excited to have you here and talk with us. So you made your Broadway debut in School of Rock and have been in an episode of Grey's Anatomy and Rami on TV. You're still at such a young age, though. So I want to know what life is like being a child actor on Broadway versus a child actor on the screen.
So on Broadway, a lot more preparation has to go into it. Like being a swing, basically like a major understudy, I had to learn so many roles. I had to have my lines down pat. So when I went on stage, I wouldn't even have to think about them. If the role that I was in, I would just have it right there. On TV, you have so many chances to mess up. Like you do takes over and over and over again, and then you do it from a different angle. So on Broadway, it's a lot more demanding, and it takes out a little bit more of your life. Like School of Rock was all that I focused on when I was in New York. Like I moved away from Houston, I left my school, I started homeschooling with my mom, so I gave up a lot for the show, and Grey's Anatomy was just 2 days of filming. So yeah, my answer is Broadway is a lot more demanding than TV.
What about like the rehearsal process versus the two?
So for Broadway, I would learn I learned all my parts, and then I had a put in, which is basically like running the show, except you don't have an audience and you don't have lighting. So all the kids came in, and the swing that I learned my parts with, he and we both did one role. So I had Katie down, but all the other roles I had to wait until I actually went on in front of an audience to really be prepared for them. But for Grey's Anatomy, we just had, I think, like one rehearsal, and then we just started shooting. And also when you rehearse, you don't have like your costume on or anything. It's just like you're in a room and you practice the lines, and then you film after maybe an hour or so, because a lot of different things happen at one time. So you really just kind of have to work with the TV schedule.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, you are first.
Okay, hello. So
Hi.
I was curious, how does having a cast of like people your age differ from having a full cast of adults?
Well, it's a lot more fun to have people you can talk to and that understand what you talk about. Um, Being with the adults was a little bit awkward, because they all knew each other. I didn't know anyone. But they were nice to me, like took pictures with me, made me comfortable. The guy who played my dad in the episode, he was very nice to me. We talked for a long time, and all of the people on the set, albeit they're all adults, but they're all just super nice. But being in a cast with other kids really just makes like a family and a really stable foundation to have for like your entire life.
All right, Alice, go ahead and ask your question.
Um, how is it? How was being on Broadway? Also, how was it being on Broadway? Also, who played Dewey Finn when you were in School of Rock?
Being on Broadway was my dream since I was like, I don't know, ever since I first saw Matilda on Broadway, I was like, I want to be on Broadway. And then I saw School of Rock and I said, I want to be on that stage. So for Dewey Finn, the main Dewey was Justin Collette, who's amazing. He's Canadian. I'm also Canadian, so we kind of bonded over that. When I first came into the theater, he was the first actor I saw, and he just welcomed me, he gave me a huge hug. He was so nice. But the other Dewey there was Connor Galuli. He went on for the matinees because it's a very demanding role, and it would be like way too much to ask for just one person to do it. Connor, crazy. He's kind of like a Jim Carrey. He's super funny, super fun to hang out with. Sometimes both the Deweys would like come play with the kids in the park. So they were really kind of just like two dads for us.
Okay. Let's. Okay. Who is next? Chaz, you are up.
Hi. I was wondering what is like the difference in process, or like what is different that was stuck out to you between doing camera filming for Grace and then doing like live performances for school?
So personally, I felt a lot more relaxed on Grays just because I knew I had the chance to get it perfect. For School of Rock, like, even though I knew all my roles and they are just part of me, I would still sometimes get a little bit stressed, and sometimes I'd have to rely on my castmates to help me out a little bit. So, Grey's Anatomy, also no audience. Like, for Broadway, just having the audience's energy really just like, it's so exhilarating. Grey's Anatomy, you would kind of get like, it was just repetitive. Like, I always had to try to be, okay, I am saying this for the first time ever. I'm not coming up with the lines. I'm coming up with the lines. I'm not memorizing them. So having to really, I guess, try to make it feel as real as possible, because School of Rock, you're just in the moment. Grey's Anatomy, it's over and over. So try to make it feel like it's just one scene for the people watching the TV.
What about who is next? We are going to go to Lorelei and then Maya.
What is it like to do like these hard things as like a younger person and like a younger age?
It would sometimes be hard. Like, I would come home from the theater and I don't know, maybe I'd like have been arguing with one of the swings or just really homesick. Like, I would cry a lot, and being separated from my dad, sister, and dog, and just being away from my home was really difficult for me. And I often had to remind myself what an honor it was to be in the show and how lucky I was. But it was a very difficult thing for me to deal with, which is why when the show closed, I wasn't as sad as I could have been, because School of Rock was not the only part of my life that was important. I had more things to look forward to in the future. So I just have to remember that.
All right. So this is a very awkward time, but I think we're gonna do the picture right now while everybody is here in case anyone has to leave early. So if you want to have your camera on, great. If you don't, this will be posted on social media, so please keep that in mind. All right. So everybody look happy and cute. 1, 2. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Let me just save that. All right, Maya, if you could just tell me who's next when I'm saving this.
If anybody still has a question that they haven't asked yet, you get priority, so to say. But if you want to ask a second question, because, repeats are happening, go ahead.
Yeah,
Just
this is
ask
moving
the question.
quickly, so we'll get to everyone at least twice.
Yeah,
hopefully.
so Chaz?
I was going to ask, like, what are different ways that you were able to practice your technique with acting and singing in the different platforms at a young age?
So for theater, everything is a little bit bigger. Since like you have to act for the audience in the front row to the audience way up in the mezzanine, way up in the back. So everything just gets a little bit louder or something. Like, you definitely have to project, you have to kind of accentuate your emotions in your face. For TV, there's a lot of close-ups, so you could literally talk at a whisper and they would catch what you're saying. And especially for my character, I had Mobius syndrome, so I basically didn't have an emotion on my face. But for TV, you can play that off. For on Broadway, you would probably I talked a little bit quieter then because my mouth couldn't move at all. So you'd probably have to talk a little bit louder and your mouth would move more. But since you're so far away, it would look like you were a little bit smaller. So there's just, for theater, it accentuates everything, gets bigger. For TV, you can dial it down a little bit unless your character is specifically loud and energetic and big and wow. That's it.
Maya, I need you to take over for a second.
All right, next, Alice, if you want to ask another question.
Sure. How was it like to meet Andrew Lloyd Webber, and what was your favorite song in School of Rock?
So I actually didn't meet him. When he came to the theater, only like the main kids went down to see him, but I have seen him from a distance. So, I mean, according to the other kids, he's a very nice person, and I bet he is. My favorite song, I have to say You're in the Band, because all of the kids are a part of it, and it doesn't matter if you're Katie or if you're Madison. You get to have your little moment to shine, and that's when the show starts to pick up. And like you get the hype, and you're like, okay, they're gonna do this. They're gonna win the battle of the bands, even though we don't. So it's really special because on stage, like the connection between the kids is really awesome, and it's just super fun.
Next, Kyle.
Hello again. I'm curious, like, what are the primary differences with like schooling with stage and screen? Since I know they provide on-set teachers, like for screen, but how does it work for stage?
So for stage, sometimes they would provide tutors. Like when I was in rehearsal, I had to do my schoolwork there. So sometimes there would just be the guardians. There are 4 guardians for 17 kids. One of the guardians would sit there and kind of monitor us doing our work. So there's a lot less like supervision, I guess. But for TV, like I had to go into a room with some other kids, and there's a tutor there, and they're like, okay, this is what you're gonna do. So for TV, it's a lot more like secure in what you have to do. It's less independent.
Next,
Any more?
Cass.
I was wondering, like, what are your like favorite aspects of theater, and second, what are parts of theater that you always are trying to work on?
My favorite aspect of theater is I just love the audience. I love having people who are coming there expecting you to give them a show. And I love that responsibility to make someone happy or make them cry. Something I'm always working on is being sad, because I am a very upbeat, optimistic person. So right now, still working on it. I can't really make myself cry. Like in auditions, I can't really do that. But if my sister doesn't give me a cupcake, I can actually make myself cry. I don't know. It really depends. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. So definitely, like the more drama, serious stuff, I really need to work on, because I've pretty much only done School of Rock, which is such an upbeat, fun show. And like there's, I guess, 5 minutes of the kids being sad. And then like they come together and be happy. So yeah, I need to work on like being serious.
Maya.
I have a question. What was your Broadway debut like? Like, explain it, because I can imagine you were probably very nervous.
So we got the call like an hour before the show. So I was going on for Chanel and one of the backup singers, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, this is actually gonna happen. As the other swing had already had his Broadway debut. So I was just like, hey. And I actually had a scheduled performance like a couple weeks after. So I thought that was going to be my Broadway debut, but then I was like, oh, okay. so like I went to the theater and everyone was super excited. They're like, you got this, you got this, you got this. And I'm like, I was like very nervous, but like everyone, the costume designers, people who did hair, anyone on stage, like everyone was so helpful and so kind. And after the show, like, oh my God, it's so special what they do. Like a couple days later, I had like a party in the green room with my other swing, celebrating our debuts. And actually after the show, like I came out, I was super excited. And then my mom was like, okay, where do you want to go? And I was just like, can I just go to bed, please? So it was a very it was very energetic, but it took away all of my energy. But it was one of the greatest days of my life.
I can imagine. Want to experience it, but not gonna happen as of now with Corona. But Kyle, go ahead.
Me again. So I saw the national tour of School of Rock, and all the kids were like really playing the instruments on stage. Did you have to learn or pick up any instruments during the rehearsal process?
I did not. So after I saw the show, I was like, I'm going to be Katie. She was who I really wanted to be. But I mean, of course, I had debates in my head like, oh, but what about Summer or like the backup singers? They're all so good. But eventually I got to play all of them, which was awesome. So I started to play the bass, and I picked that up over the 2 years until casting. But I actually picked up a couple instruments from the other kids in the show, because all of the kids are so talented. Like, I can play the drums a little bit, I can get by, and the guitar is so similar to the bass, except with the pick I can't do that, but I just kind of use my fingers ish, but I can kind of ish play the guitar. And I played some piano when I was younger, so I like learned how to play the Lawrence parts in case I had to, I don't know, go on for Lawrence, because stuff like that happens as a swing. Like, I actually ended up having to learn 2 boy parts, because nearing the end of the show, all of the boys were just falling apart. Even though all of them were pretty much new. Anyway, so I kind of picked up things along the way, because, you know, there wasn't much else to do backstage. So, yeah.
You know, last night, if you guys were here, you learned that swings are important, and there are a lot of injuries that happen on Broadway.
Oh my gosh. There's like, it was so crazy. The guy who played Lawrence on my Katie debut, I was so stressed. His foot got stuck under the bandstand, and I started freaking out. Like, it was so stressful, because I was like, oh my God, are we gonna like continue the show? And minor fact, Dove Cameron was in the audience, so I was like, so that was very stressful. There's a lot of injuries, like people go throw up in the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, I'm on, okay. Or people call out mid-show. A lot of stuff happens.
Lorelai, you're next.
What are your favorite things about like going on stage and like performing on TV shows?
Going on stage? For that, since like Broadway was my big stage thing, really just knowing how far I'd come to be there was really amazing, because obviously with the help of my mom, I got myself there with just hard work and perseverance. And it really shows that, like, if you work hard, you can actually get there. And on TV, like, all my friends, so little minor story, all my friends had watched Grey's Anatomy. I thought it was about an alien who was named Grey, and like talking about his anatomy. Yeah. So getting to meet people that all my friends admire, my sister knows, getting to meet like some really famous people, and getting to be on the set of one of the most popular TV shows in America right now was an amazing experience, because I was like, okay, I'm actually here. Like, and I figured out everything that happens. Like, I got to see the room where they have like the organs that they use for surgeries, and I learned that like they don't have like just a bunch of rooms. They just use the same room. They move up a wall, and there's so much that goes on. They do have an actual functioning elevator though, so that's what they use for those scenes. But getting to see what happens there was very cool.
Chaz, you're next.
What is the like craziest experience you had being a swing, like sudden switches of character, stuff like that you've had to do?
So I went it was actually my first time I went on mid-show was after Queen of the Night when the kids are all playing their instruments, and I think I went on for Chanel, but then the fastest turnaround I had like 10 minutes to go on stage for Madison. So that was very strong. I was like, what? Okay. Because you know that you have to expect it, but you don't really expect it. So like I was just sitting in my room, like doing work or something, and they're like, Caroline, you're on. I'm like, oh, okay. And so like everyone just comes in there and they just help you do anything. And then you're just shoved on stage. And so that's how ready you have to be.
Sorry. Who is
Chaz.
Yeah. Yes.
Wait, no, I think it's Alice.
Oh, sorry.
What did you guys do during intermission, and how is it to go to the stage door after and meet fans?
So during intermission, here's an example. If there's a birthday, we would usually have a cake in the green room. Everyone would put on their robes. Sometimes the swings would like decorate the room with streamers or something because we had nothing better to do. And like just we would talk to each other, you know, hang out. Sometimes we would go into the other kids' dressing rooms, you know, hang out, talk there, play games. And then coming out the stage door was always so fun because they're just so excited and they just want to hear about what you do and how you do it. And there were always some people who had come more than once, and so we would like recognize them, like, hey, what's up? And it just felt really good to make people happy.
Kyle.
Hello again. This is a very basic question, but like, what are some of your dream shows that you want to be in?
6. I want to be in 6.
Who as who? Yeah.
Well, I want to be a swing, so I can play all of them. But specifically, I would want to play Anne Boleyn or Anna Cleese. A lot of people agree with me.
Chaz, go ahead.
So coming in as an actor for the episode on Grays, which I loved that episode by the way, but what was it like meeting all of the actors that had been on the show for that many years?
They were just so comfortable with what they were doing. They knew exactly how to do it. They were professionals. But like they would joke around. They'd be like, "Oh, you want me to move this here? Okay." And like they had their little coats and they would like write down things on their notepads or something, and they like make jokes about each other and stuff. They seem like School of Rock. They seem like they're a family too, because they spend a lot of time together. Because like scene after scene after scene, like I was there for an extremely long time, like the entire day, to film one scene. So just the amount of work that they do together really makes them bond. So it was cool to see their interactions and to meet some pretty cool people.
Eli, you're muted.
Maya, it seems as you have another question, so go ahead.
Yes, I do. What's your favorite like backstage memory, like in everything? So either in Grey's Anatomy or School of Rock.
I have to think. There are happy and sads. So when I made my Broadway debut, the girl I was a swing with, who is my absolute best friend of all time, she is so sweet and I love her so much. Like she was just so happy. She was so excited and like she just gave me the biggest hug, and it made me feel golden inside. But then some sad memories, like when she left the show. I have never cried so much. Like I was just devastated. Because it was like a family member moving away to college or something. And even though I saw her, I saw her after that, it was still pretty sad. Also, when the show closed, I was more emotional hearing the show closed than it actually closing. Like I thought that this was gonna go on forever, and that it was just such a great show that how could it even close? But I was just shocked and so sad. But then I had a pretty solid cry on stage when the show closed, don't get me wrong. But I was also excited because the day after I was gonna fly home to Houston for the first time in like over a year. And so I was really excited to go back home. And for Grace, a good memory. Oh yeah, when I first got there, they had the best snacks ever. Like there was just like I can't even describe. Like there was Hubba Bubba, there were Cheetos, there was Sprite, everything. And so I felt like I was kind of breaking the law. I was just, I'm just gonna eat this now. But yeah, that was pretty fun.
I feel like when actors just don't, when they talk about their favorite moments, it's just never like being, like doing it. So
Yeah. It's the funny moments and the sad moments that we really remember. Although I do remember, when I was Summer, I'm supposed to, the pointer that she has? Well, I'm supposed to take that off stage. Well, I didn't for You're in the Band when you're jumping, and my pointer just flung out. And so it was just like in the middle of the stage, and I'm in the back jumping. So I'm like, okay. So I just like ran up and grabbed it. Oh, and when Lawrence like gives Dewey the gross bar, when Connor spit it, it didn't land on the stage. It went into the audience. So that was pretty amusing.
All right. Let's do two more. Let's do Chaz, and then let's do one more.
So I was gonna ask if were there any like funny moments where you had to play off something like an improv moment on stage that was unscripted?
Let me think. I don't think so, but I remember when I forgot a line, a couple of people were like, social studies. But I remember hearing a story. Alex Brightman, he got sick during the middle of the faculty quadrille, and so he ran off stage and threw up. And so the teachers were just standing on stage. They're like, okay, that Dewey Finn's one heck of a guy, huh? So that was a fun story to hear about. But I can't remember a time that I had to improv.
Any last questions, Maya? Do you have any?
I might. Let me open my notes app.
Or Alice. Gosh, Alice. So many A-L-E or
Owls.
A-L.
So many owls.
Alex Brightman.
Yes. So we have a Christmas door decorating contest where yeah, so each dressing room decorates their door to see who's best. We did not win, sadly, but we worked very hard. We had a big taco Santa on our door, so that was what we did. But I can't remember the team that won. Yeah, I think the team that won like made little cutouts of some of like the big School of Rock members, like Andrew Lloyd Webber, Alex Brightman, etc., and like put Christmas hats on them, and so like they stuck those all over their door. So they won. So Alex Brightman was the judge of that. So I got to meet him then. He's very funny.
All right, that is all the time we have for today. I have to thank Caroline for joining us. If you guys could just mind, Caroline, if you could stay around for 30 seconds after, that would be great. Big announcement on Monday. Maya, any last words?
Yeah, follow our Instagram and follow Caroline on Instagram. We put so many announcements. For example, the big one coming on Monday. That's going to be first on our Instagram. Our website is also linked there. You can then also find the link to this video, which is recorded. Eli, reminder to stop the recording. Yeah,
So,
that's it.
okay,
Hope you
yeah,
guys
a
had
little-
great time.
A little bit on that. First of all, yeah, again, thank you all for joining. I'm going to put this recording in the Google Drive, and I'll